Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss how to use the apostrophe correctly. In discussing our topic of the apostrophe, we'll go over 3 subtopics. First, we'll talk about how it shows possession. That means one person owns something. Number 2, the apostrophe is used to indicate omission. That means a letter has been taken out. And number 3, it is used to express plural of numbers and symbols, like saying X's and Y's. After we look at the 3 topics, we'll go over some common mistakes that people make. So topic number 1 is to show possession. When you say that a person has something and the thing belongs to the person, you'll use the apostrophe, as in this example, the boy's toy. The boy's toy means there's one toy, there's one boy, and the toy belongs to the boy. So it is the boy's toy. You write the boy first, then you write the apostrophe, and then the S. Let's look down to the next example, the dog's tail. This is talking about the tail of the dog. One dog, one tail. My mother's dress refers to one mother, so you write mother first, then you write apostrophe, then S to say it's her dress. The dress belongs to her. Same thing in the next example, her child's book. Her child, there's only one, so we write child, then you write the apostrophe S. Now, this gets a little more complicated when you're talking about plural words. So let's look on the right side. We have the first example of the boys. Now, the boys here is more than one. There are 2 or 3 boys, and they have probably multiple toys, not just one that they're sharing. It doesn't matter if it's one toy or many toys. What matters is that there are many boys. So you have to write boys with the S first, that belongs to the boy. Then you write the apostrophe, and normally we would write an S there after the apostrophe, but we don't write it here because we already have an S. If you write an extra S, then people will want to say the boys' toys. And we don't want people to say that. It's difficult to say. So the sound is going to be the same. The boy's toy and the boys' toys is pronounced the same, but it's written differently. Let's look at the second example, the dog's tails. In this case, you have dogs. The S has to go with the dogs to say that there is more than one dog. So it could be 3 dogs' tails. And then that would be 3 tails belonging to 3 dogs. So you write the S before the apostrophe, but not after, because it's redundant, meaning it is too much, okay? The next example, their mother's dresses. So you have multiple people with their mothers. The mothers are more than one person in this case, so you write mothers with the S, write the apostrophe to show possession, but not another S. Don't write the extra S. The next one says her children's book. Now you have multiple childs, so that's children. 1 child, 2 children, 3 children. So you write the word children, but here we don't need an S for the plural of the child. So it's children with no S. And then we write the apostrophe here. Since we didn't have an S included in the word children, then we do need to write an extra S to make that pronunciation. So in this case, you do write the S after the apostrophe because you didn't get one before the S. Okay, and that S is important for us to tell the reader to make that sound. Let's look at some other examples of showing possession. Names are special cases. When you look at the first example, we have James's bike. Now we write James with the S because that's his name. We can't do anything about his name. James has to be there. Now there's an S there. Should we write another S? That's the question. This one right here, should we be writing that? Well, in the previous slide, we said that if you have an S already before the apostrophe, you shouldn't write the extra S because people will make the S sound twice. So we don't want people to say the dog's tails, right? But in this case, what do we want people to say? Do we want people to say James' bike or James's bike? This has to be based on your experience with names. Most people, when the name is short, like James or Chris, they don't mind saying the extra S after that. So James's bike, Chris's car is commonly how Americans will say these words. So it's not too difficult to say. This is how you want people to read it. Then you will write that extra S. And so we have James's bike, Chris's car. How about the next one? Ulysses' journey. So here we don't have an extra S after the apostrophe. Why not? Let's think about it. Well, Ulysses is a famous character in literature. There's an S sound here and an S sound there. We already have two S sounds. Ulysses, if we add another S sound, then it would have to be read Ulysses' journey. And that's too difficult to say. We would not want to say it that way. And most people wouldn't say it that way. So here in this case, we don't want an extra S sound. So we will just end it with Ulysses, write the name, but don't add an extra S because adding an S will make the reader make that extra S sound and make it difficult. In the next case, you have Jesus's disciples. So in this case, it's kind of ambiguous. It depends on the person speaking. In American English, a lot of people will say Jesus's disciples, and they don't have a problem with that. Jesus's, even though it's three S sounds there. Then there are some people who wouldn't want to say it that way, and so I might say it's kind of half and half. And how about the next one? Moses's laws. And this is also kind of half and half. Some people will say Moses's laws. Some will say Moses' laws, and it doesn't really matter as long as people understand. Now, when you're writing, this is an ambiguous case, and you can't make up your mind about situations like this. This is a very rare situation, but it does come up. And if it does come up, you might consider the alternative ways of writing it on the right side. So instead of saying Ulysses' journey, say the journey of Ulysses. Or Jesus' disciples becomes the disciples of Jesus. Moses' laws becomes the laws of Moses. This is rather a recommended method for writing these things when you feel confused. Let's go on to the second topic. Apostrophes are used to indicate omission. Omission means that something is left out. And we are mainly talking about contractions. And so in your English classes, you have learned, of course, that don't, when you say I don't know, don't is made up of two words, do not. So don't means the same thing, and it is actually the same letters found in do not, D-O, N, and then we took out the letter O, and then we wrote the T. In that space where that letter was taken out, we have to write an apostrophe. We don't. And the same happens with isn't, which is not, where the O was taken out. Can't is cannot, and in this case, you have C-A-N, and you have that omitted, that N omitted and also that O omitted, right? And it doesn't matter how many letters are taken out. In this case, 2 letters are taken out, but we will still write 1 apostrophe to express it. Another case of the omission happening with the apostrophe is for poetic uses. Sometimes when you are reading poetry or song lyrics or children's rhymes, you will find that some of these words, unusual words, have apostrophes in them. Then it's up to you to figure out what the words were and what letters were taken out to make that expression. So here are some common examples. You have first, "'Twas the night before Christmas." This is something that is said during Christmas. You see it in Christmas stories, that it was the night before Christmas, because "'twas" is it and "was" put together. Okay, that's "'twas the night before Christmas." Second example says, "'Tis the season to be jolly." And "'tis" is "it is," where you have "it" and "is" put together, and the first I is omitted, and so you put an apostrophe to show that it was left out. The next example says, "O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." This should sound very familiar to you because this is the final line of the American national anthem. And if you just hear it and you don't know the words, it'll be pronounced as "o'er the land." So you might think, well, it's "o'er the land," and you might not understand. But it's not "o'er the land," it's "o'er" as in over the land. But we took out the letter V and put an apostrophe there. And why do we do that? Or why did the author of the song do that? It's because over is 2 syllables and or is 1 syllable. For this wording to fit the rhythm of the song, he needed to put 1 syllable there, but not 2 syllables. That would kind of ruin the rhythm and it wouldn't fit the tune. And so he wanted to say just "or," and most people will understand that it's "over" spoken quickly. So take out the word V, and then you reduce the number of syllables. And the same thing happens in the next example. "The good old days" is the common expression. When someone says, "Hey, how are you?" you might say, "Oh, same old, same old." Okay? When you say "same old," you're saying the same old thing. Old is O-L-D with a D taken out. That's the old. So the good old days is the good old days, where you don't need to pronounce that D there in that line, because the following sound, makes it clear. And when you speak quickly, a lot of times in American English, certain sounds get lost, and so it happens when you express that. If you ever read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, you'll see that in the dialogues between the characters, because Mark Twain is trying to express the way these people spoke the words, he will use lots of these apostrophes in words. And a lot of the words will be misspelled with lots of apostrophes because he wanted the readers to sound out those sentences like the local people of that region were talking, and kind of hear those sounds. And so students have a very difficult time with that dialogue because everything is misspelled, they are missing letters, and so it's hard to figure out what the words are. But that's the purpose of the apostrophe. Let's look at the third example, plural of numbers and symbols. So the apostrophe is used when you're trying to say that there are multiple numbers. first of all. So, example, he's got 3 5s in his hand. And so we're talking about playing cards probably, and he has 3 cards that have 5s on them. And so 5, 5, and 5. To say 3 5s, this will be the correct way to express it, because 5 is a number. You wrote it as a number, then write the apostrophe and the S. Next example is don't put a line through your 7s. So we're talking about the number 7 written down, the character, numerical character number 7, and don't put a line through number 7. And that means this: when a lot of people do that to write their 7s, this is kind of a cultural, regional thing. It is recognized as a 7, but somebody might say, hey, don't put a line through your 7s. And that's what we're talking about. Symbols. Mind your P's and Q's. That means be careful with the letters P's and Q's when you're writing your sentences, because they look so similar. So P's and Q's, when you write it with the apostrophe, then I know that you're talking about the letter P and the letter Q. Next sentence says there are 2 X's in the equation. So we're talking about an algebra expression probably, and there are 2 X's in the expression, as in something like x plus 2x equals 10 maybe. Okay, so if you saw something like that, you would say, oh, there are 2 X's in the equation. And that will be expressed with the apostrophe S, because X is the letter that we're talking about, or the symbol that we're talking about. So those are the common uses for the apostrophe, the 3 rules. Let's look at some common mistakes that people might make. Let's look at number 1. The bananas were ripe and yellow. So here we're looking at apostrophe S here. The bananas were, we're talking about more than one banana, so we have many bananas, and should we have an apostrophe S? No, apostrophe is only for showing possession. The bananas don't possess anything, they don't own anything, and so we will not put the apostrophe. We'll just say the bananas were ripe, as in bananas plural, and that uses just a regular S with no apostrophe. Number 2, the cat was grooming its fur. And here, this is a mistake that even a lot of English speakers will make all the time. Even adults, even educated people make this mistake. It's can be spelled as ITS or IT apostrophe S. And you know that the apostrophe is to show that something has gone missing. And so it's with the apostrophe is, it is. All right, so that's my I that I sometimes write strangely. Okay, it is. Okay, so remember that when you see the apostrophe, it means that 2 words were put together to make that it's. And in this sentence, we're talking about the fur of the cat. And the confusion happens because if we put a name there, as in like a regular noun, then we would say cat's fur. We would say Bob's fur. We would normally put apostrophe S to show possession. But with its, we don't do that because we have a pronoun its for that position. And that its is like saying his fur or her fur or my fur. It's a possessive pronoun that is already reserved for that purpose. So these pronouns don't need apostrophes. Same thing with the its. Its, in this case, does not need an apostrophe. It's with the apostrophe is only it is. Okay? So this is a very common mistake. Please do remember that one rule. So the correct answer there is its fur with no apostrophe. Number 3, they left their books on the desk. And so we have this there. So this is also a set of commonly confused words, which is there, and there. And now you know that apostrophe is for missing letters. So what are we missing in this there? This is for they are. So this there is only for saying they are, not for my books, your books, their books. That one is this pronoun there that we need in that position. Of course, the first there, number one, is saying over here, over there, that there. Okay. The correct one you need is there with THIR. In this case also, this is showing possession, just like on number two, the it's, but there's a possessive pronoun that we can use. So we don't need to put an apostrophe on anything because we're going to use the pronoun there in the same sense as number two. And so, correctly spelled, they left their books on the desk. It will be pronounced the same way, but written differently with different spelling. Thank you for watching. We will have more content like this, so please do subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.